Have you had a chance to look at viewership of online fighting game tournaments and compare them to offline and just see if it's are people, because I can tell you as an FGC fan, I'm not watching online Smash tournaments all weekend, Rod. They take forever and they're awful. So like, do you think have you looked at it, or do you think Evo is going to be a good data point for that?
Yeah,
I'm curious what you think.
honestly, I'm waiting for Evo. Evo will be the defining data point for this. I mean, I've done a ton of interviews over the last few months, and spoken a lot about how, during coronavirus, esports is such a bright spot because the industry is built on the internet and it is the only real competitive um, thing that you can do in the world because it is based on the internet and you can play people from around the world online. But it has significantly hurt the fighting game community. And I really haven't spoken a lot about that. But the fighting game community, because the entire industry is built on homegrown events and is built on DIY events and is built on locals, and that is a core part of the competitive structure of the FGC. Not having local events has really hurt the FGC. It is not like other esports that have been able to continue on or even have like showcase moments with no other major sports on to show, like, watch esports because nothing else is on. The FGC has really been hurting a lot. So not only has it lost, not only is the net code garbage and that affects running an online tournament, it's taken the heart and soul out of how the FGC is run normally, and it's created really a bad atmosphere for the current FGC. But considering Evo is the biggest fighting game tournament in the world, and they're trying to put as much thought and process behind the tournament and organization with the games to do it, I will watch Evo Online the entire weekend. I think it'll be a decent showing to see how many people will tune in to see online fighting games.
I mean, is there anything that's going to be playable online that isn't going to like just turn into kind of a clusterfuck, you think, like at all? And in the fighting game community, like, is there any bright light there at
Isn't
all?
Tekken kind of decent?
I mean, I've played Tekken online with my friends, but like, I'm not a pro gamer. I don't know what I'm looking
I'm
for as far as
interested.
flag or anything.
Interested to see if there's a resurgence in Killer Instinct and how good their netcode has been and how excited that base is to be back. And they're back only because of it's online now. I want to see. I would definitely want to see how that goes.
Yeah, I think, like, the Evo lineup is so vastly different because of the online. A lot of titles like Killer Instinct will probably do really well because they did have some focus online. But when it comes to like the big ones, do I think anything good is going to happen for like Smash? I think Street Fighter will be okay. I feel like Street Fighter and Tekken will be okay. I think the NRS netcode is like pretty good. It's like solid. Maybe Mortal Kombat will be like all right.
Yeah. I can see that. It's just
I haven't heard good things about Dragon Ball code.
Yeah,
so
that's gonna be bad.
That's
gonna be bad.
Yeah, so I don't know. I can tell you, I'm gonna when I see those hiccups in a fighting game tournament, I tend to tune out a little bit. I know the players aren't; they're frustrated by this, and that leads to. I don't know if you've been paying attention to like, at least in the Smash scene. MKLeo was on fire going into the shutdown. So it's been interesting to see him not place in any of these online tournaments.
Yeah.
No, I mean, in a lot of games in esports, the difference between there are people that are known as onliners, and that can play really well online, but when they go to a tournament, they can't do for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's nerves, sometimes they're not used to the crowds, sometimes they just can't handle it. And then there are players that are really good in person, but that can't do shit online because the game is just not the same. The timings are not the same. You can't do the same moves in the same order. You can't do the same combos. You just can't perform in the same way. So really, fighting games, like, this problem affects fighting games more than it does probably any other competitive game genre. Like first-person shooters, it definitely is effective, but really fighting games are the worst in this type of problem.
Yeah, I mean, like Rocket League is thriving right now. When you look at player count or viewership on RLCS, like there's, like you said, for the entire esports pie, it grew during the pandemic, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like every game really has done really well. Like League of
Yep.
Legends was hitting really great numbers. Counter-Strike was breaking concurrent viewer count and concurrent player numbers during the pandemic. Rocket League, as you mentioned, was doing really good. And then of course sim racing like took over the mainstream moment with with iRacing and NASCAR and Formula One. So like everything in competitive gaming was doing great except for fighting games, which took a really huge hit.
Is there something that's lost though in not having all the international players all get together in one venue? Like now everybody's kind of like stuck in their own region and they kind of have to play amongst themselves on the internet just because you can't really connect to a player from Japan, for example. Like what games are hurt the most by not being able to like just play internationally? And I'm thinking something like Overwatch League, where now suddenly like NA and EU and like China all have to play amongst each other.
I would say, you're definitely right. I mean, as much as I've spoken about how esports has had a really good opportunity to showcase itself, obviously it's still lost a lot. I mean, all the stadium events that we've had over the years, which are really ramping up in terms of excitement of bringing like the online esport experience to a stadium full of 20,000 screaming fans, which then shines through to the audience at home. Like that is all lost. And as you mentioned, you're losing the international competition because you can't have LANs with everyone in person. And now you're having these regional tournaments. It does feel like that Counter-Strike and Dota are probably hurt the most because those are the games under Valve that have the most amount of third-party in-person tournaments. Overwatch League is probably next, and as you mentioned, it has those issues, but the regional tournaments have actually gone like pretty well. Even with the like that problem does exist, but having the Asian region and the North American region separate, the games and matches have still been pretty good, and it hasn't been too bad. And then you have things like League of Legends, and Overwatch League initially was going to be like this because all the international players were already in America. They could still keep doing their normal matches because all the players were here. Overwatch League was kind of adversely affected because 5 of the franchises are Chinese organizations, and there are a significant amount of Chinese players in the Overwatch League. And of course, with the virus originating, in China, it affected like a larger portion of the professional player base than the other games. And I think that probably hurt the league more often than not. Like if the entire league, because in like League of Legends, the LPL is totally separate from the LCS and the LEC, so they don't have to lose out on a portion of the teams or players. If the Overwatch League was separate like the LCS, LEC, and LPL, it probably would have been less impactful in terms of the hurting and the region stuff.